Good afternoon and welcome to the City Club. I'm Jim Foster, Executive Director of the City Club. Being here at the City Club every day certainly has its challenges, but also some very enjoyable moments. And one of those enjoyable moments is when the phone rings and it's John Bagala. And he says, I have an idea for a program. And so it was with today's program. About 5 weeks ago, the phone rang and John said, I think we ought to do something about the state budget crisis. Projections are generally discussed in the range of an $8 billion shortfall. And we are in the midst of the political season where the two candidates for governor are campaigning across the state, but there is a feeling by many that they are not adequately addressing this most important problem, which whoever wins will define their first term in office. John Bagala is our moderator today. He is an executive, a strategist, and a community leader with extensive experience in both the public and nonprofit sectors. He's director of the Center for Community Solutions, where he leads much of the public discussion of key issues, like state finance and healthcare. He has considerable experience in the healthcare services industry and was a 3-term Ohio House of Representative. And he teaches at several local colleges and lectures widely. John will introduce the rest of the panel. And one of the things that I've learned about John Bagala over the years, and admire most, is that he does not back away from the tough issues. He takes them on with relish and engages the wider public in the dialogue, which we will do here this afternoon at the City Club. John?
Thank you very much. I'm going to make the introductions brief because we have a lot of things to talk with you about today. We're going to have 3 8 to 10 minute presentations of different approaches to the state budget, and then followed by a good half hour of dialogue with you all. And we're very pleased to have you all here. I want to thank Jim and the board of the City Club for agreeing to do this program. I also very briefly want to call out a couple of people in the audience who are also, I think, very important people. One, Jim mentioned that I teach at several area colleges. In fact, I do. And this is the first time I've been at something like this where one of my students showed up, and she's got a new job over with Jewish Community Federation. Deb Chickering is sitting there, and I want to say hi to her. It's good to see her, and good to know that after the class she's still willing to come hear something I have to say. I also want to mention Zach Schiller back here is in the corner. Zach and his organization Policy Matters is doing a considerable amount of work on the state budget issues too, and I imagine before the noontime hour is over, Zach may have a thing or two to say, and we welcome that. And I also want to mention our partner Mike Lyons, with the Regional Prosperity Initiative of the Regional Mayors Association. We're working on some of these issues as they relate to local governments. I am going to go third in walking through some of the Center for Community Solutions work on the budget. Before this, though, we have a couple of people that I think will represent organizations who are doing outstanding work on the state budget. And I think collectively, I hope what everyone leaves here with a sense of at the end of today is that there are people from many different perspectives that are taking a look at a set of structural issues with regard to financing state government and the very important things that flow from that in all directions. The first speaker today is going to be Gene Krebs. Gene is a senior Director of Government and Policy for the Greater Ohio Policy Center. They are at 399 East Main Street in Columbus, and they are a very similar organization in some ways to Community Solutions, but with a particular focus in their work on economic opportunity and reimagining where Ohio might be in the future. Gene also is a former state legislator and a very engaging person. You're going to enjoy hearing from him. Also with us today is Jim Gottfried. Jim is a partner with E&Y, sort of based in Cleveland, but he works globally, and most of his work is centered in New York City. I don't know how he pulls that off, but maybe he'll be willing to explain that. The Ohio Society of CPAs has put together a preliminary report from which more work will be coming focusing on opportunities for state and local government in Ohio to become more effective and more efficient in their operations. That report, which he can tell you about, was issued last November, and I think they've got more things coming. I'm going to allow them to tell you a little bit more about their organizations and their engagement in this as they're making their comments, and I'll be back up here in about 20 minutes, give or take, to tell you a bit about Community Solutions work on this. So, Gene, it's yours.
First of all, some additional background, full disclosure. My wife is a native of Lyndhurst, so she is a fine brush arc, which may please some of you, and some of you may be quite upset with that. So, okay, it's going to be a lot of jokes today and some humor, so here's the drill. If you hear a joke and you don't laugh, I keep hammering at you till you do laugh. And if you do laugh, I've been rewarded. So you'll be hearing more bad jokes. So you lose no matter what happens. Okay. So I do want to thank the City Club for having this forum. I do want to thank very much John for inviting me, and I really want to acknowledge the work that the CPAs did when the governor said, "I need alternative solutions," and it took you 3 weeks, 4 weeks to come up with a very remarkable document that really set the stage for a lot of additional work. That was just very commendable. The state's budget problem is huge, and we believe at Greater Ohio that local government's reform is an important piece of the solution. The frame we often use for local government reform is that if Ohio were a house, we've built the house so that every bedroom has its own fully equipped and stocked private kitchen. In addition, we do not even shop for food at Costco or Sam's Warehouse. We instead shop at the local convenience store and buy our milk in half-gallon pints, in half pints, 20 at a time. That's how government is currently run in Ohio. This grand expenditure of taxpayer money is perhaps one of the reasons why Ohio is struggling with the budget. Greater Ohio, in partnership with the Brookings Institution, released a report in February entitled Restoring Prosperity, Transforming Ohio's Communities for the Next Economy. You all have a copy of it. It's in, I think they call it teal, I call it blue, which laid out a systemic framework to revitalize our great state and reinvigorate our economic competitiveness. As we know in the report, to become more economically competitive, not just with our neighboring states, but increasingly with the rest of the world, Ohio needs to get our core costs down. And our core costs are supported by the amount of taxes business individuals pay, as low as possible without degrading our quality of life. And the question you're probably asking, are our core costs high? Yes, and the data may actually surprise you in many cases. We have found that Ohioans have the 9th highest local tax burden in the United States. Okay? We are ranked 34th, though, for state tax obligations. Okay? And this also applies off to our school systems as well. Our research found, and this is somewhat controversial, Ohio spends 49% more on school district administration than the national average. The state ranks 47th in the nation in the share of elementary and secondary education spending that goes to instruction, and 9th in terms of money spent on administration. Yeah, a couple of you going, oh my gosh, all right? So how do we address these high core costs? Rather than just mindlessly and arbitrarily cutting government and its programs by a certain percentage, we need to re-examine how we govern. What are Ohio's 3,800 taxing jurisdictions, which includes counties, townships, cities, and school districts, but service delivery areas? Have we ever given thought to what duties are performed by which entity and whether we can make the system work better? And at what cost? UPS regularly reconfigures their delivery routes to better match the changing needs of communities where it delivers its services. Ohio should do the same. What is government but a service delivery territory? What is a county, township, city? It's where we choose to deliver services. Like UPS, rethink that on occasion. To conduct this examination, Greater Ohio Policy Center recommends that the State and Local Government Commission be resurrected